Hello, my name is Paula Alphonse. I was born in Switzerland and lived there for maybe 2 or 3 years. Then we moved to Zaire, which is now the Democratic Republic of Congo. We spent, hmm, I would say, a good 5 years or so in Zaire. And then we came to Canada. At that time, my parents used to travel a lot. And the main thing I remember about my teenage years is reading a lot of books and Cool and the Gang, as well as Stevie Wonder. So those were my staples in my childhood and adolescence. Interesting because my journey has not been a straight one. So therefore, I started as a pharmacist. I worked as a pharmacist for a good, I would say about 10 years. And then I joined the government, the federal public service, and I move in different fields. I did science, I did tobacco control, I did advisory board, all kinds of things. And then I have to say, I'm one of those individuals that is a lifelong learner. So, which means through this all, I went back to school. I studied health law, studied consulting, and then finally the last time I remember being in university was for adult education, which is technically the field that I'm operating in at this time. It's a funny, as I said, my I didn't have a straight path in terms of learning. I've always loved learning, and there were all kinds of things that were of interest to me. So when I went to study in consulting, that was at a time when we were doing a lot of consultation with different partners, stakeholders, and I just wanted to ensure that I had the information, the know-how to do the job. Did that, enjoyed it, and then kept looking, and I moved in my career, and I found myself at one point in this with this offer, which is someone contacted me to help them with their pharmacology program. They had to revamp it, and they also needed a teacher. So I did some of that, and then I realized, oh, I kind of like it. So went back to school and went to get more information in terms of adult education, and I'll do you pass the information on because it's not the same as children education. There's a different way of bringing the people in and ensuring that they can take the learning and apply it as quickly as possible. So that's why I went back again. Definitely. I think ever since I was a child, I've always been the person wanting to help others. And I didn't know at this time that it was service to others. But in my family, on one side, there was my father who was a teacher. On the other side, there's my mother who's a nurse. And they pretty much instilled into us the continuous learning, and we've been lifelong learners. When I look to my sisters as well, we every so often we go back for different courses, different programs, and this is the part where you want to keep the brain active, but also it's a way of growing for me as an individual. And I'll take it from what it has done to me, for me, should I say, and then I'll put it in the context of the potential it could have for others. If I look from a perspective of learning, um, when I finished Cégep, at the time I used to live in Quebec, I was expected to do something with the rest of my life, but I wasn't really sure what that would be. So I studied in pharmacy, I worked in pharmacy, and then I realized I can do the job, but it's not really speaking to me. And the portion about being a lifelong learner is really from the perspective that throughout your journey, depending on some of those things that will happen in your life, things, perspective, ways of seeing, ways of thinking will change. And you have to be able to take on the cues that are in your everyday life and reapply it in such a way that you can feel a movement forward. My journey, both as an educator and also as a lifelong learner, has shown me that there's a lot of people that are stuck in a reality and don't know how to move forward. Oftentimes, this takes place because I'm limiting myself to what I've always done. But if I'm able to see what else could I be doing, because I strongly believe that as human beings, we're all gifted with certain talents and abilities as well as skill set. And when I started as a pharmacy, that was mostly my parents uh, deciding, pushing, and letting me know you're good in science. It's a good field. Why not? I did it, but then it wasn't feeding my soul. So this is why I kept looking for what should life be about, because I'd never believed that it was just get up, get ready, go to work, get back from work, watch a little TV, start over the next day, and then whoops, finally weekend, and then Sunday arrives, you start crying because the week is starting again. That's not me. So if anyone is considering what my journey would be, it's a lot easier if I keep feeding my mind with things that keep stretching me rather than putting those limits on myself as to what I can and what I cannot do. Good question. The very first one for me was the birth of my child, my firstborn. Uh, I woke up feeling such a sense of responsibility that I've never felt before. So I used to make the joke that I knew I was pregnant, but I didn't know I was going to have a baby. And all of a sudden you realize it's a long-term contract. It's not something that you could change your mind on and say, oh, I thought, but it's not what I wanted. Okay, send it back. It doesn't work. So that was the first thing. And it happened within, I would say, 24 hours to 48 hours. And it's just like, it hit me. That was the first one. The second one was when I was separating from my husband at the time. And for me, it was a great reminder that it is better to travel alone than to travel with the wrong partner. I fell for the society pressure. Not to say that there was no love with the individual or that he's not a good person, but it's just that we were so different and there were so many things that we didn't flush out before the marriage that we discovered that in between, yeah, we're not in the same place. We don't want the same thing. And no matter how much we try, it's not getting us to move forward. So that was this part, which is stop worrying about doing things as per society tells you, but find what works for you. So I think it's about that time or a few years before, if I'm not mistaken, that I started noticing that I needed to be able to go to bed at night and know that my mind was at rest. So if anything was eating at me, then it wasn't, something wasn't working. I had to address it. So nowadays, no longer have those struggle. And then the last big pivoting that I think I had to do was really from the perspective of a burnout that I had I think it was in the late 2000. And all of a sudden you realize I was taking care of everybody else, but I actually never had time for Paula. So I learned from that experience that I have to take better care of Paula in order to be there for other people. And at the same time, what that requires of me is to put the boundaries, both boundaries for myself, for those behaviors that I don't want to keep repeating, but also boundaries for others so that they understand that there's a point where what it is that they need and that they want stops with respect to my own wants and my own needs. I think I was a people pleaser. And I was raised in a family where it was ingrained into us that you have to have a strong work ethic. So the expectations and the pressure I put on myself were very high. And then the more you give, the more people take. Then it came to a point that there were no longer evenings and weekends because I was rushing to do the things with the kids, finishing things at work that we didn't have time to finish during work hours, take care of other related duties, whatever it is, but I was always running. So the pace of my life was too intense. I can't tell for everybody, but I have to say for myself, I had to decide what was more important for myself. And sometimes you take a job and you just do what is asked, but you don't have the investment in the actual objectives, goals, or anything that is meant to take place. I found that once I started putting my boundaries, I would decide which environment I felt invested in and that I felt also nourished by. And this way, it was a lot easier to ensure that I wasn't running and taking care on a spin for everything that needed to take place, but understanding what were my roles, my responsibilities, that space within which I knew I could make a difference. I would say, be it marriage or be it parenthood, you have to first know yourself. There's no other way to do it. And oftentimes we're so rushing to be grown up that we actually don't stop to really assess, what do I want? What do I need? What are those things that I consider that are important to me? What are my values? What is my vision for myself and the life ahead? Had I done that earlier, I think I would have removed quite a bit of struggle. To this day, society is still putting pressure on female to marry and then be parents. Males don't seem to be receiving the same message. A man could have children, he could be in his 50s and have a newborn, nobody has issue. But most females around 22, 25, this is where you're getting repeated message. Okay, you know what you need to do. This is what needs to take place. What's wrong with you if you're not doing it? So this is the part where I would strongly encourage people to find first who they are, what matters to them, and what their vision for their life is. For some, it would be marriage. For others, it might be, I want kids, but I don't want to be married. Or I want kids, but I want to travel. So we have so many more opportunities compared to what we had in previous generations. But some of those models, some of those messages that are still coming from the society date back, I would say, 2 or 3 generations still. What do I want to leave behind? I want people to understand that there are way more options out there than they think. Way more way more possibilities, way more career choices that we can think of. As I mentioned earlier, every single one of us have a set of skills, talents, abilities that only when they're harnessed, you will be happy. So I want everyone to find that one thing that gives them meaning and a sense of purpose. And in that thought process, for anybody that I would have interacted with for a significant amount of time, I want them to think about or smile about what they got from me, but then also be ready to pay forward by helping someone else, so that we create what I call a better world. It's helping people get to the best version of themselves. And it's not about what I want. It's not about what your parents want or your spouse wants, but what is it that makes you truly happy? We have learned, we have seen many people that were rich, utterly rich, and drop everything because, it's not doing it for me. So it's not about money. It's really about what's within you and what it is that you have to offer to the world. For me, every single hurdle that I encountered got me closer to what I was meant to do. So there's not a specific path. I have a daughter. From the time she was 14 or 15, she already knew what she wanted. And she's well in her 20s and she's still on target. Some people learn early, some people it would take a longer journey. I realize now that the bachelor in pharmacy was about my parents. But then what I mentioned as well, on one side we had my father who was a teacher, my mom who was a nurse. So it was education versus health. I chose, or I went the education, no, the health way, because that's what I was being told I was good at. And then I realized that I am way better on the other side. Not because I'm more or less intelligent, but because what I do actually makes me feel nourished, give me the sense that I'm making a difference and that I am truly helping others. I was helping people as a pharmacist, but it wasn't the same thing. I would say dare to be different. Don't just go with the mold. Break whatever mold that doesn't suit you and figure out what the path is. Even if it's not one of those that is clearly aligned with the nice flower beds on either side, find something that makes you passionate and happy to wake up every day.